Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ness and I like to talk about books. Today I'm going to be doing a video I haven't done for a while, and that's a book haul. I've really been trying to rein in my book spending because I am getting to the point now where I'm having to use the very top of my bookcases to store books on. And although I haven't been making videos a lot recently, I will say that I've been using that time to read more and more books. I definitely have read more books than what I am hauling, but what that doesn't account for is that I'm getting 3 books via Illimicrate and Fairy Loot every month. So this pile is ramping up pretty quickly. As much as I'm saying, you know, I'm not buying books and I'm doing really well, I do have free subscriptions. And I do count them as, like, you know, not like one-off purchases. I make videos on them. It's part of my channel. So I do like have a little bit of an excuse for myself there. But not when it comes to just random Waterstones purchases. And one thing that has totally upset my bank balance recently and my shelves is that I've discovered Vinted. Not sponsored, but please do. Vinted is such a good way to buy books. Like, if you buy books on like Depop, just don't. Go to Vinted instead, because I've been getting so many bargains off Vinted that I can't wait to show you. Half of these I think are from Vinted. What happened was I wanted to sell a Fairy Loot box that I wasn't really keen on. I think it was January's box. And I just wanted to get back what I paid for it, which was £33-ish. So that's what I listed it for. It sold, and then the credit went into the account, and I was like, I could withdraw it, or I could search science fiction and fantasy books, and I scrolled for hours and that money was spent. It's so much cheaper than Depop. I'm going to start with the comics, then we're going to go to the paperbacks, then we're going to go to the hardbacks. Some of these are ARCs, some of them I've bought and some of them have been gifts to me, and I'm really grateful. Considering this is a haul from the start of this year, since the 1st of January, I do think it's reined in a little bit. We're looking at about 25 books. So the first things I'm going to talk about are the comics, and that is purely because they're the ones I'm most excited to talk about. So I have here all of the current published volumes 1, 2 and 3 of Snot Girl. Now, Snot Girl is a comic that I read volume 1 of online a few years ago. When I say a few years ago, I mean actually it was a lot of years ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought, you know what it is, I want to continue reading this in print because the colours are beautiful, and it's the colours that make this comic series. So I just put it on my wish list and I totally forgot about it, and then I did get a promotion at work, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, and this was my promotion present of Rebecca at Rebecca Reads, my best friend in the world. If you haven't watched her videos, please go over and subscribe to her and watch her channel. Snot Girl is one of the most colourful comic series that I have ever read. It is by the person who did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and it had been on a quite significant hiatus and wasn't sure whether this was going to come back or not. It was announced that Snot Girl is going to return this year by the Leslie Hung, I think it was, who is the artist. So I was like, you know what it is, I have this one, I'm so invested, I'm just gonna buy myself the other 2 volumes that are currently published. It has like undertones of like sapphicness. The main character makes green hair look so attractive. Snot Girl it's a bit satirical. It's about a 20-something-year-old lifestyle and fashion blogger. She has the picture perfect life online. You know, this day and age we're fairly like sort of accustomed to fashion and lifestyle bloggers and their curated content online, with the understanding now that life behind the lens can be a lot different. Lottie has a problem with allergies and it makes her snot a lot, and this whole like problem with her allergies and snotting, it's sort of like a metaphor for her life outside of perfection. This comic is for a very niche audience, but I'm definitely that audience and I love it. It's a bit bizarre, you know. I've read like 3 volumes and I'm still not really sure what the plot is about, if I'm honest. It can be a little slow at times, but I do think those that sort of grew up with like the 2012 to 2015 blogging scene might really enjoy this. That's where I would recommend it to. But I love it. I love comics. This is one of my favourites. Volume 1 was definitely the better one of all of them. If you've read them, we can discuss in the comments, because I've not actually found anyone yet that has read Snot Girl. So if you have, please make yourself known. So getting to the paperbacks. The first one is Deathless, and this was a gift from my gorgeous friend Caitlin, who has just finished medical school, so congratulations. Huge achievement, so proud of you. This came the day after I opened on camera my Illumicrate box from last month, because the cushion in that was inspired by Deathless, and I made a comment saying that I'd never heard of it, but I was so in love with the cushion and the design, it made me really interested in reading it. Caitlin does say in the note that this is an acquired taste. It says on the back that it's a collision of Russian myth, magic, folklore and actual history. The back really does not tell you much at all, and to be honest, I don't know a thing about this. A handsome man arrives in St. Petersburg. Main character Maya falls in love with him. So I did a little bit of googling, and I can see why Caitlin says it's an acquired taste, because I think every book that really draws a lot on historical themes is an acquired taste. This is obviously an adult novel and it came out 2011. I'm really unsure why Illumicrate picked this. Someone at Illumicrate must have just really loved this story. This book is like a mash together of Russian folklore and the events during and after the Russian Revolution. It's described as alternative history. I'm all for it. I love this type of thing. So, not sure when I'm going to get around to reading it though, but I'm excited. Next is another gift from Rebecca again, also to go with my promotion, and that is The Mask of Mirrors, and this is an adult fantasy book. It is like a doorstop. I never realised how long this book was. Holy moly. This is book one in a series. This seems like a complex fantasy novel which is politically driven. It has been recommended for fans of Loch Lamora. The main character is Ren, and she is a con artist. She has come to the sparkling city of Nadariza with one goal: to trick her way into a noble house, securing her fortune and her sister's future. But her masquerade is just one of many, and as corrupt nightmare magic begins to weave its way through the city of dreams, the poisonous feuds of its nobility and the shadowy dangers of the impoverished underbelly become tangled with Ren at its heart. It describes itself as being dark magical fantasy. This is a humongous read, especially for being the first in a series. But I'm really enjoying adult fantasy right now, so I'm in the mood to read it. Next is a book that I bought myself new because I just needed something to read over February, and I read every book on my February TBR apart from this one, I think, and this is The King of Battle and Blood, and I did start it. I got about 20 pages into it and I just really couldn't get into it. This is by Scarlett St. Clair, who also wrote A Touch of Darkness, which was the Hades and Persephone retelling, and I rated that 3 stars. I wasn't that into it, but this seemed more of an original take. I think at the time I was just sick of reading Persephone and Hades retellings. The main character is an heiress who is married off to the enemy king, who is a vampire. He leads an army of undead, and she decides that she wants to try and kill him, but he stops her assassination attempt and tells her that if she tries this again, he will bring her back as the unliving, which is what she doesn't like. I assume they fall in love, enemies to lovers, the trend of 2021 in my opinion. But yeah, I couldn't get into it, but I think I was just in the wrong mindset at the time when I was starting it. I will definitely be picking this up at some point again. Next is the first of my TikTok purchases, and it's a book that I didn't particularly want, if I'm honest, but purchasing this brought down the cost of the other purchases that I made. So I added this to the basket anyway, and honestly it's in perfect condition. And it is an Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I've read a few books by Margaret Rogerson. They were whimsical, but I didn't particularly like them. I felt like there was something that was just a little bit lacking. So I do have some concerns about reading this book. It's definitely not at the top of my priority. Whether I get around to reading this or not is unknown, but on Vinted a lot of sellers do bundle discounts, and by buying more brings the overall cost down. This is a young adult fantasy, and as far as I'm aware this is a standalone. In an Enchantment of Ravens, the main character is Isabel, and she is a painter. She receives her first royal patron, who is the Autumn Prince, and he doesn't like the way that she's painted him, and he takes her to stand trial. They are attacked and they're forced to depend on each other. Like I said, it seems like a quick read. I just don't know if I'm going to get around to reading it. just got it to bring the price down. Next three are a series of novellas from Tor. I'm really enjoying the novellas that Tor are putting out, so I decided to try some more. And this is the Murderbot series. I only heard of this because Rebecca has it, and Illumicrate made an item inspired by this in the last box. But I initially found book 2 and 3 in brand new condition on Vinted for £4. Obviously then I needed to buy book 1. I had been promising myself that I wasn't going to buy like multiple books in a series in case I didn't like it, but £4? How could I not? Perfect condition. And this was when I realised that Vinted was just like a gold mine for books. So yes, I have book 1. I have it on my TBR to read. I'm probably going to just sit and read this tonight, to be honest. I really don't know what this is about, other than it's about a robot that becomes self-aware and becomes really depressed. The artwork is absolutely stunning, and I think if I don't like these, I think my husband will. Really confident that I'm going to enjoy this. I'm really into novellas at the moment. Every Heart a Doorway had just started my love for novellas, and now I can't get enough of them. Next is a book that was £3 on Amazon, so I felt like, you know, why not? And it's The Love Hypothesis. I purely got this because I came across a comment in one of my videos where it asked me, please buy The Love Hypothesis. And I was like, you know what, you don't need to tell me twice. I did it. This is an adult contemporary steamy love story between two scientists. And I am doing a series where I read books recommended to me by BookTok. First video went really well. Second one is to come, hasn't gone so well. But subscribe if you're interested in that video in the future. Next is The Grace of Kings, and this was a gift to me from Michelle at Circles of Flame. I'll leave the link in the description to everyone that's given me something. I'm really grateful for it. I had heard of this specific author who writes adult fantasy. I knew of this book, but I wasn't particularly that interested until they made the covers, which looked like one continuous piece of art, and I was like, that is so cool. This is another chunky doorstop read, and it is the debut novel. This is a political adult fantasy that's inspired by Chinese myth and legend. Reviews are really mixed, I must say. My experience of reading epic fantasy though is that I always enjoy it because I like books with like political undertones, because it's kind of like you never know what's going to happen. And when a book has a character list, you know you're in for quite a ride. So the next two books are ARCs that I got sent from Harper 360. I'm very, very happy about that because they are two books that featured in my Sapphic novels of 2022 that I want to read this year, which I made last year. So the first book that was sent to me was Ecstasy by Claire Legrand, and oh god, my face when I saw this in the post, I was so excited. This was probably the one that I wanted to read the most out of that entire video. Now this did come out back in February, and I did want to read it at the end of February, but the invasion of Ukraine, all of that, the upheaval, and that was also linked directly to my promotion at work, which is so unfortunate. But I'm really honoured to be in a place where I'm helping, but that really threw me off reading for many, many weeks, trying to get used to my new job, trying to create a service, recruiting my team. All was really like overwhelming in the backdrop of what was going on. But like I say, I'm really, really pleased that I can help in some way those that need a safe place. So even though that like promotions are supposed to be a happy time in someone's life, they were really not happy for me. It was so difficult, and it is still so difficult to wrap my head around everything. So yeah, that threw my reading off. So I didn't get round to reading this like I wanted to. Usually when Harper 365 send me a book, I devour it within a week. Ecstasia is an older young adult novel which talks about religious trauma, but it does also have like a magical element to this novel as well. It seems really dark, but also just like completely different to the things that I've been reading recently, which is why I wanted to pick this up so bad. And the other book that they sent me a few weeks later was From Dust of Flame. This is a contemporary Jewish fantasy in which main character Hannah, her mother disappears, and to try and get to the root of the problem, she uncovers a family history that has just so many secrets in it. And this stretches back right through to Prague, into the Nazi occupation, and into the realms of Jewish myth and legend. And she needs to uncover her family secret to break this curse. Two books I've been really excited to get around to reading. I'm just really sad that I haven't read them earlier, but I will be sitting down on a dark evening to read this and then this one. Next is another present off Rebecca. I think this one she just sent me for the sake of sending me, and I mean, I just have like the best friend ever, what can I say? So this book is The Wolf Den, and this is a book I've had my eye on for a long time. I'm not sure if I've said this as often as what I probably should, but I do love historical fiction. Historical fiction is one of my favourite genres. It's just not often that I find a point in history that I'm really interested in. But this book is about Pompey's brothels. It is also the first in the series, and I have visited Pompeii. I was a teenager at the time that I visited Pompeii. And when you go to Pompeii, it shows you which was the brothel house and what type of pictures or paintings would have been on the wall. And as a teenager, I was like, whoa, this is so scandalous. The pictures were so crude. And then I was kind of like, yeah, they didn't have internet. What else were they supposed to do? And it is the oldest profession in the world. So that's why this did catch my eye quite a bit. It's a story of sisterhood and courage, and I can absolutely believe that. I'm very excited to be reading this. I'm hoping to get away on an abroad holiday in June or July time, and this will be the first thing that goes into my suitcase. We're getting there, we are getting there. Now the next two books I did have an Amazon voucher and I wasn't quite sure what to buy, so I went for some wild cards in my opinion. So the first one that I got was Aveda Nostra, and this is by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. So sorry if I'm butchering that. They are a Ukrainian couple who write books together. I found this novel a while back when I was looking for translated works, because I did want to do a video where I read books that were then translated into English, basically do it for most countries. Then I realised how many books I'd actually have to buy, so then I sacked that idea. But this one was definitely one that stuck with me from doing that research. The main character of this novel is Sasha, and she's a teenager and is on holiday with her mother when she meets a mysterious man who asks her to do something, and in return he gives her a strange gold coin. He continues to ask her to do things and rewards her with more gold coins until eventually he instructs her to leave her family and attend a mysterious university. So against her family's wishes, she does so. But this school is bizarre. This book is the story of magic, science and philosophy, and I'm very excited to read it, although I must say the words tiny, but the cover art is beautiful. So the second book that I got with a voucher is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland, and this is also the author of In the Ravenous Dark. I pretty much wanted this because on the back it says the main character is coming to terms with her asexuality, and I was like, I haven't read enough books like that. I need it. But to be honest, like when you read the rest of it, it sounds really intriguing. So the main character is a soul walker. That means that they can journey into other people's souls while they sleep. But when she does this, she sees a black door. Every time she enters a soul, she sees this black door. Her mother has told her never to open this door. Of course, when you're told to do something, you want to do it. So when she touches the door, it feels warm and it feels like a heart pulsing. When she puts her ear to it, she can hear whisperings to her from the other side. When tragedy strikes, she opens the door. Doesn't it sound amazing? I love these types of like mysteries, like through the door mysteries. Please recommend me some more. Actually don't, I have too many books that I need to read. Don't encourage me to buy more books. I'm weak and I'm easily influenced. Anyway, I think that sounds absolutely epic. So now on to the hardbacks. I swear to God, hardbacks are so heavy. And there's only like that many. But there's no need. Having a hardback is like having a workout. So the first book that I want to show off that I've been purchasing is House of Sky and Breath. Now I do actually have 2 copies of this because when I ordered this, my order was cancelled, or at least I thought it was. I wasn't sure if it was going to come or not. But I did manage to get a signed copy. Ah! This is my baby, this is my precious, and this just sits on my shelves and I just stare at it. This is obviously book 2, a chunky book 2, to House of Earth and Blood. Spoke about that a lot on my channel. I have started this. I got to about 180 pages before the invasion of Ukraine and I just thought, nope, I am not in the right mindset to read this anymore. I want to enjoy this book, I want to savour it like it is the nicest dessert that I've ever eaten, and I can't do that in the headspace that I'm in. So I put it down. I have every intention of picking it back up. I'm so excited to dive back into it, but right now it's on the back burner. But I never ever thought I'd get my hands on a signed copy. So now we're back to the vintage purchasing. I don't know what possessed me to buy these. I really don't. I kind of looked at these and thought, I kind of feel like my friend Caitlin would have bought these, and I've never discussed it with her, so she's probably watching this like, oh, this is so random. But like, I kind of like was like, you know what, I feel like they are the books that she would kind of read. And they were brand new. Someone was like, they're an unwanted gift. They've never been read. They're £4 for these books. And I was like, oh, God, sign me up. They are like very newly published. And I just thought, you know what, for £4, I'm just going to try them. They're hardbacks. I will be able to resell them on if I don't want them. A steal. So the first one is Age of Ash. I'd never heard of this before. And I just thought the cover looked really interesting. I'm trying to read more male authors because I've got a horrible tendency at the moment to just read books by women, and I want to try and diversify my reading a bit. And I think part of that is to jump into some male written fantasy. The last one that I read was Kings of the Wild, and I enjoyed it so much. I thought the humour was so good. So I wanted to try a little bit more. This is book 1 in a trilogy, and the whole story is set in the walls of one great city over the course of one tumultuous year. I don't know if I said that right. Kithamar is a centre of trade and wealth, an ancient city with a long bloody history where countless thousands live and their stories unfold. Alice is simply a petty thief from the slums of Long Hill, but when her brother is murdered, she sets out to discover who killed him and why. The more she unearths about him, the more she learns about herself, and the truths she finds are more dangerous than knives. But does it have a map? She do. Actually seems like it's going to be quite a quick read. And the other one that I bought with it was The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. Really interesting cover. Another map. This book has a table of contents. More books need this. This book has thrown me off because it has the exact same pattern and colour of like the inside. Obviously it's the same publisher, so I feel like they've just kind of used the same template here, and it's thrown me off because I keep thinking, well, is it the same book? So this is adult epic fantasy, which introduces Sir Conrad von Volt, an emperor's justice who is a detective, judge and executioner all in one. But these are dangerous times to be a justice. That seems too complicated for me to read and summarise, to be honest. I'm very sorry. If you want to know more about this book, please Google it. My head can't take any new information right now. We have 11 minutes left on the SD card and we have 4 books to go, so let's get cracking. The next book is the Waterstones edition of the Atlas 6, and if I'm honest, I think I'm going to be selling this for hopefully what I paid for it. The only reason I got this one was because it was a signed copy, and I did read the Atlas 6 when it was available to purchase as a paperback last year when you could get it self-published, and I really enjoyed it. And I saw Waterstones were doing an exclusive edition that was signed, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get it because I want a signed copy of that book. And the way that Waterstones like showed this, I thought this book was gonna be like glitter, and it's not. It made it look gold. This is yellow. I just really don't like this edition, and I have Fairy and I like Fairy so much more. Even though Fairy isn't signed, I don't know, part of me just thinks, should I just cut this page out and stick it, just glue it into my Fairy one and tin it into a pen signed book? Because I just don't like this edition at all. That is so messy, in my opinion. It might look okay on camera, but in person it's like really not great. How desperate am I for a signed copy? That's the question. I don't need 3 copies of the Atlas 6. So about the next one, I was ordering a book for my grandma, and I added it to the basket, went to check out, and then Waterstones done that really cheeky thing where I was like, do you want to add this book to your basket? And it just showed me this. I was like, yes, Waterstones, you can add that to my basket. And I didn't even know what I was ordering. So it turns out it is a signed copy. This is Pandora by Susan Stokes Chapman, and it has beautiful end papers, and it is signed. But this was a complete impulse purchase because I thought this would look super nice on my Greek shelves. I will try and read it, maybe. Now this book is actually set in London in 1799. Dora Blake is an aspiring jewellery artist. She finds a mysterious Greek vase and it leads her to start questioning her life and like the secrets that might be buried and ridiculous at times. I can't be the only person that impulse purchased this for the spine though. I can't be. Someone in the comments will have done that as well. 2 books to go, 2 books to go. Right, so my next vintage purchase. We need to talk about this first. Sometimes when you make bookish content, you feel really out of the loop. So I'm obviously involved in a lot of discussions about books, and books is pretty much all I talk about. And when I see people discussing things, I feel like really out of the conversation, and I really just want to join in on the conversation, whether that conversation be good or bad about a certain book. You know, like I say at the start of my videos, I like to talk about books, and it's not always going to be in a good way. Sometimes it's in a critical way, sometimes it's in a bad way, and I felt like I was missing out on a really key point of Booktube last year, and so I took up the opportunity to buy Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. It's not new, so I thought, you know, that's probably the best way to buy this book. I do have an Illumicrate edition, but if I'm honest, that could pay for a car service for me, so I'm keeping it on my shelves for a rainy day. Sometimes you have those books where, you know, it's like money in a savings account. I really just wanted to be involved in the conversations, in on the discussion, able to watch all those videos about this. I'm going to be honest and say I don't tend to like J. Kristoff's writing. I find his writing to be a bit pretentious. And that's just another example of, you know, how I want to join in on these discussions about this book. So yeah, I got it. And last but certainly not least is another really kind promotion present off my good friend Lily, who is also a YouTuber, and that is 6 Crimson Cranes. I absolutely adore this cover. I love these colours. These pastel colours are absolutely stunning. Now I did have a copy from Fairy Loot, but someone came to my flat and was like, oh my god, I've been looking for that so much, and I was like, oh, you can have it. It had been sat on my shelves for so long and I hadn't read it yet, and you know what, it brought me joy to give it away. But afterwards I was like, oh, I really wanted to read that. So thank you very much, Lily, for getting this off my wish list for me. I really appreciate it. But I do love these colours so much more than the Fairy Loot one. I'm much happier with this on my shelves. I'm much more inclined to read it because I just like this edition so much more. This is a fairy tale retelling in which the main character's brothers are turned into cranes by a sorceress. If she tells anyone about this, her brothers will be killed for every time that she does. The main character is the only princess and she's cast out and she's going to search for her brothers, and in doing so she discovers a plot to overtake the throne. It seems like a quick read, to be honest, if you have a look through it. The second novel in the series is out this year. Cover also stunning. Looks gonna look beautiful with this on my shelves. So those are the books that I have acquired outside of my subscriptions. And although it's a lot, I have also read a lot, so I don't feel that guilty about it, although I do need to consider having a big chop. So I'll do an updated bookshelf tour soon just to show you how my shelves are changing and evolving, moving more into adult fantasy, which is I'm very happy with and excited about. But yeah, that's my book haul. I hope everyone's well, and please let me know what you've been buying recently and reading recently. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.